In a small town, tucked away in the quiet corners of a bustling city, there lived a man named David, a single father, struggling to balance his job, his responsibilities, and the weight of raising his young daughter, Emma, alone. Life had been tough on him ever since his wife passed away. Each day was a challenge. He worked long hours at a construction site, just barely scraping by to pay the rent and keep food on the table. But David didn't mind the exhaustion, because every second of his life was dedicated to providing a future for his daughter. One rainy evening, as David was walking back from work, his worn shoes splashing through the puddles, he noticed something. Out of the corner of his eye, there, on the side of the road, stood a woman with two small children, huddled under an old, tattered umbrella. The woman looked frail, her face gaunt with hunger. Her eyes were a mix of exhaustion and despair. She looked like someone who had given up on the world, and yet, she wasn't asking for help. She was just standing there, silently battling the world that had turned its back on her. David's heart ached. The sight of her brought back memories of his own struggles when Emma was younger. He walked over to her, his footsteps uncertain, unsure of what to say. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. The woman looked up at him, her eyes filled with a quiet sorrow. "We haven't eaten in days," she whispered, her voice weak. "I don't know where to go." David didn't think twice. He knew he had very little to give, but what he had was a heart full of empathy. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the little bit of change he had left from his lunch. "Here," he said. "It's not much, but it's something. You and your kids need food." The woman shook her head, her eyes welling up with tears. "I can't take your last bit of money. You need it for your daughter." David smiled softly. "Emma and I will be fine. You need it more than we do." The woman's face softened with gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you so much." The next few days, David couldn't shake the image of that woman and her children. He knew that he couldn't let them go hungry again. He didn't have much, but he had the little bit of food left in his pantry. So, he cooked up a simple meal: pasta, beans, whatever he could find. The following day, he found the woman again, and without hesitation, handed her the food he had prepared. "This is for you and your kids. Please take it." The woman looked at him, astonished. She could hardly believe that someone like David, who was struggling himself, would help a stranger. "Why are you doing this for us?" she asked, a mix of confusion and wonder in her voice. David shrugged. "Because I know what it's like to struggle, and I've learned that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything." As the days passed, something incredible happened. The woman, whose name turned out to be Sarah, began to regain her strength, both physically and emotionally. Her twins, Lily and Noah, started to smile again, their laughter echoing in the small apartment they lived in. Sarah found a part-time job in a local diner, and little by little, she and her children started rebuilding their lives. David, too, found something he hadn't realized he was missing: a sense of purpose. It wasn't just about working endlessly for his own survival anymore. It was about reaching out to others, about helping those in need. And in turn, his own world started to feel a little brighter. Emma, who had watched her father's struggle with quiet strength, saw him in a new light, not just as a hardworking father, but as a man capable of making the world a better place, one small act at a time. Months later, Sarah invited David and Emma over for dinner. It was a simple gathering, nothing fancy, but it was filled with warmth, laughter, and gratitude. The twins ran around the apartment, their giggles filling the room, and David couldn't help but feel a deep sense of fulfillment. What had started with a small, kind gesture had blossomed into a lasting bond, a friendship born out of compassion and shared struggles. The evening ended with Sarah pulling David aside. "I don't know where we'd be without you," she said, her voice trembling. "You didn't just feed us. You gave us hope. And that's something we'll never forget." David smiled, his heart full. Sometimes, all it takes is a little help and a lot of heart. And so, David and Sarah's paths had crossed at just the right time, changing both of their lives forever. What started as a simple act of kindness grew into a life-changing journey. For all involved, they had learned that, even in the darkest times, there's always a glimmer of hope, waiting to be shared. And in that shared hope, they found the strength to overcome whatever came their way. David's lesson was simple: never underestimate the power of kindness, because sometimes, it's the small things that change everything.